This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Aaron Maté.
Well, we end today's show in Vermont, which is poised to become the first state to require the labeling of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. A pro-GMO labeling bill passed by both chambers is now on the way to the governor, Peter Shumlin's desk, where he is expected to sign the bill as early as this week. The new law would take effect in July of 2016. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is among those who supports the effort to label GMO foods.
The truth of the matter is that labeling of GMOs is also not a radical concept. It exists throughout the European Union. In fact, it exists throughout dozens and dozens of countries throughout the world. So anyone who tells you that we can't do this is just too complicated, they're not telling you the truth.
29 other states have proposed bills requiring GMO labeling this year, and 2 have already passed bills requiring labeling, like Connecticut. But those measures only take effect when neighboring states also approve the requirements. For more, we go to Vermont via Democracy Now! Video stream to Vermont State Senator David Zuckerman of the Progressive Party. He's an organic farmer himself who introduced the GMO labeling bills more than a decade ago when he was in the Vermont House. He co-owns Full Moon Farm. David Zuckerman, welcome to Democracy Now! What happened? Explain what this bill actually means.
Well, what this bill means is in 2016, when the average customer goes into a store, they can look at a package, and on that package somewhere there will be an indicator that the food was partially or completely made with genetic engineering.
And how did it happen? Talk about the origins of this legislation and why you think this is so important.
Well, really, in Vermont, we've been having discussions around genetic engineering in our food for well over a decade, and I've been in politics doing that as a spokesperson, really, for thousands of people across the state. And the momentum has just been building and building. We had a seed labeling and registration law that we passed about a decade ago. We had a bill that was going to require the manufacturers of these seeds to be responsible for them economically and environmentally. That passed but got vetoed by our governor about 6 years ago, a different governor, I should add. And then in the last couple of years, a real movement's been building for product labeling, as you know, both across the country and here in Vermont.
Now, when similar measures came up in Washington and California, we saw food companies and Monsanto spend tens of millions of dollars to defeat those bills. So what kind of opposition did you face here, and do you expect legal challenges after it's enacted into law?
Well, I think many people would be surprised that there was not the airwave bombardment like there was in California and Washington. And in part, I think that's because the average Vermonter was so much more aware that I think those companies felt it was an uphill battle here. They already had a population of people that were much more knowledgeable and wouldn't succumb to some of the propaganda that were in those kinds of ads, like your food's going to be 10% more, or this feeds the world, when really there's plenty of food in the world. It's other issues as to why people are hungry. On the other hand, I do think that it's likely that the Grocery Manufacturers Association or some organization that represents a lot of the food manufacturers will probably sue us. And a lot of our work here in Vermont was working to draft a bill that would withstand such a lawsuit.